My strategy of American strength is guided by a set of core principles. First, American foreign policy must be prosecuted with clarity and resolve. Our friends and allies must have no doubts about where we stand, and neither should our rivals. If the world knows we are resolute, our allies will be comforted, and those who wish us harm will be far less tempted to test that resolve. Second, America must promote open markets, representative government, and respect for human rights. The path from authoritarianism to freedom and representative government is not always a straight line or an easy evolution, but history teaches us that nations that share our values will be reliable partners and stand with us in pursuit of common security and shared prosperity. Third, the United States will apply the full spectrum of hard and soft power to influence events before they erupt into conflict. Resort to force is always the least desirable and the costliest option. We must therefore employ all the tools of statecraft to shape the outcome of threatening situations before they demand military action. The United States should always retain military supremacy to deter would-be aggressors and to defend our allies and ourselves. And know this, if America is the undisputed leader of the world, it reduces our need to police a more chaotic world. Fourth, the United States must exercise leadership in multilateral organizations and our alliances. American leadership lends credibility and breeds faith in the ultimate success of any action and attracts full participation from other nations. American leadership will also focus multilateral institutions like the UN on achieving the substantive goals of democracy and human rights enshrined in their charters. Too often those bodies, well, they prize the act of negotiating over the outcome to be reached. And shamefully, they can become forums for the tantrums of tyrants and the airing of the world's most ancient of prejudices, anti-Semitism. The United States must fight to return these bodies to their proper role. But know this, while America should work with other nations, we always reserve the right to act alone to protect our vital national interests. In my first 100 days in office, I will take a series of measures to put these principles into action and place America and the world on safer footing. Among these actions will be an effort to restore America's national defense. I will reverse the hollowing of our Navy and announce an initiative to increase the shipbuilding rate from 9 per year to 15 ships per year. I will begin reversing Obama-era cuts to national missile defense and prioritize the full deployment of a multi-layered national ballistic missile defense system. And I will order the formulation of a national cybersecurity strategy to deter and defend against the growing threats of militarized cyber attacks, cyber terrorism, and cyber espionage. I will enhance our deterrent against the Iranian regime by ordering the regular presence of aircraft carrier task forces, one in the Eastern Mediterranean and one in the Persian Gulf region. I'll begin discussions with Israel to increase the level of our military assistance and coordination. And I will again reiterate that Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon is unacceptable. I'll begin organizing all our diplomatic and assistance efforts in the greater Middle East under one official with the authority and accountability necessary to to train all our soft power resources on ensuring that the Arab Spring does not fade into a long winter. I'll launch a campaign to advance economic opportunity in Latin America and contrast the benefits of democracy, free trade, and free enterprise against the material and moral bankruptcy of the Venezuelan and Cuban model. I'll order a full review of our transition to the Afghan military to secure that nation's sovereignty from the tyranny of the Taliban. I'll speak with our generals in the field and receive the best recommendations of our military commanders. The force level necessary to secure our gains and complete our mission successfully is a decision I will make free from politics. I will bolster and repair our alliances. Our friends should never fear that we will not stand by them in an hour of need. I will reaffirm as a vital national interest Israel's existence as a Jewish state. I will count as dear our special relationship with the United Kingdom, and I will begin talks with Mexico to strengthen our cooperation on our shared problems of drugs and security. This is America's moment. We should embrace the challenge and not shrink from it, not crawl into an isolationist shell, not wave the white flag of surrender, nor give in to those who assert that America's time has passed. That's utter nonsense. An eloquently justified surrender of world leadership is still surrender. I will not surrender America's role in the world. This is very simple. If you do not want America to be the strongest nation on earth, I'm not your president. You have that president today. The 21st century can and must be an American century. It began with terror, war, economic calamity. It is our duty to steer it onto the path of freedom, peace, and prosperity. My hope is that our grandchildren will remember us in the same way that we remember the past generations of Americans who overcame adversity, the generations that fought in world wars, that came through the Great Depression, and that gained victory in the Cold War. Let future generations look back on us and say, they rose to the occasion, they embraced their duty, and they led our nation to safety and to greatness. The greatest generation is passing. But as their light fades, we must seize the torch they carried so gallantly at such great sacrifice. It is an eternal torch of decency, freedom, and hope. It's not America's torch alone, but it's America's duty and honor to hold it high enough that all the world can see its light. Believe in America. Thank you so much, and God bless this great land. Thank you.
You're listening to Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney laying out his plan for national security, his vision for U.S. policy if he were to become president. Before Citadel's students there, I want to bring in our own Wolf Blitzer out of Washington. And Wolf, what really struck me about this speech is how much he sounds like former President Bush. And I guess it's not surprising. His national security team is made up of a lot of Bush advisors, Michael Chertoff, Jim Wilkinson, Dan Sr., a whole bunch of guys who led said in the Bush administration, but he said a couple of things, and it sounded very much like the Bush doctrine of preemptive action here, saying that he has to understand emerging threats, deal with them before they explode in a conflict, that you don't follow crisis by crisis and react. He also said as well that he reserves the right to act alone to protect our vital interests, something that we had also heard from President Bush. What struck you as part of his national security platform?
Well, I'm already getting a lot of emails and a lot of tweets, I'm sure you are as well, Suzanne, from critics of Mitt Romney, Democratic critics, saying, you know what, if you liked President Bush's national security policies, whether in Iraq, Afghanistan, or elsewhere, you're going to love Mitt Romney's policies because they're not only more of the same, but they double down on a lot of those initiatives that President Bush engaged in, some of the points that you were just making, and some of his top national security advisors, as you also point out, obviously served in the Bush administration as well. The most biting comment he made was right at the very end against the current president of the United States, when he suggested in pretty strong words, doesn't get much stronger than this, that President Obama, and I'm paraphrasing, President Obama doesn't want America to be the strongest nation on earth. He says if you want somebody who doesn't want to see America be the strongest nation on earth, don't vote for me, he said. There already is a president who believes that. That's a pretty damning indictment of the current president of the United States, that he doesn't want America to be the strongest nation on earth. That's going to generate a lot of buzz, shall we say, and I think if Mitt Romney is in fact the front runner right now for the Republican presidential nomination, and all the polls suggest that he is, this is going to be a fierce national security debate that he will engage in with the current president if in fact it becomes a Romney versus Obama presidential election.
Thanks, Wolf. I want to bring in our Chris Lawrence at the Pentagon. And Chris, I want to get your impressions of what you heard. He laid out a couple of things that were specific about how he would increase the number of ships, U.S. Carriers, that type of thing, in critical areas around the world. How do you think the Pentagon is reacting to this? Is this a realistic plan here? Is it something that he could actually do, start investing more in the military?
Well, certainly it's something that the president would have a great deal of leverage over, Suzanne, and some of the things that he laid out, I would imagine would be music to the ears of some people in the Pentagon. You know, when he talks about keeping the number of carriers at the congressionally mandated number of 11, when he talks about increasing shipbuilding from 9, you know, up to, I think it was 15 a year, that's got to be music to the ears in states like Virginia, Maine, places where these ships are built. Some of the things he mentioned, though, do tend to run up against reality. You know, we talked about the border situation in Mexico and doing more, perhaps with the National Defense Team on the border with Mexico. Well, just this week, Mexico's ambassador to the U.S. Reiterated Mexico's position that they will not accept U.S. troops in that country to fight the drug cartels. And the Pentagon recently spent over $30 million to extend the National Guard troops along the border. So again, you run into issues of spending. When you talk about Afghanistan, going back to the generals, perhaps taking a look at that plan, it does run up against some harsh realities, because if you're not going to institute any cuts to the Defense Department, as Governor Romney stated, and you're committed to reducing the national debt, and you've come out to say you don't want to raise taxes, it does start to raise questions about where some of this money might be coming from.
All right, Chris Lawrence, thank you very much. Appreciate it.